Hey guys, Jeff here with the Common Sense Camper. I want to do a follow-up video to my outing that I had last weekend. Hopefully you saw that. Alex and Cunny and I went to Wildcat Hollow. It's about an hour and a half, maybe an hour, 20 minutes or so from my house. Had a great time. Unfortunately, Cunny had to leave because he ended up getting the flu the first night. So he headed out at like the wee hours of the morning in the dark, and so my hat's off to Cunny for actually doing that. I mean, we were asleep, had no idea. I woke up and Cunny was gone. But that outing was probably one of the best outings I've had in a very long time. And there's three reasons why. I'm going to share those with you. I'm also going to share with you the new setup or gear that I'm going to be taking from now on. We'll do kind of a tabletop walkthrough of that. The first and foremost, the most important thing that I did was just 7 weeks prior to that, I went on an outing again with Alex and Cunny, and Will Meyer from Mantis Outdoors was meeting us there the second day. And on the second day, I was so exhausted and tired, I left. I mean, I could not even function. I was tired just sitting down. And I was disgusted. I couldn't believe that I was in that type of shape. And obviously, if you watch my other videos, I'm dealing with a heart issue. And so my wife and I started doing a lot of research on it. I did a lot on my own as well. And I decided to change my eating habits and my lifestyle. And I won't get into all of that in detail. If you want to know more about it, watch my previous video. I went into it a little bit. But if you want more detail, just private message me or email me, and I'll give you some more specific details. But basically, I changed my eating habits, and I call it a lifestyle because for me, it's not a diet. It's something I need to do. It's not, it's something where I just have a choice of what I want to do. I have to do this, or I am not going to be around here much longer. And so I've taken it very seriously, and it's a very serious lifestyle change for me. In that outing at AEP, I was at about 240 pounds. And the last weekend, I was at 218 pounds. So I have a very crazy metabolism that allows me in a very short amount of time to lose a lot of weight. Now, the remaining weight that I need to shed, I will be fighting for it just like everyone else. But I could not believe the difference that made on the trip to Wildcat Hollow. I wasn't tired, I wasn't winded, I wasn't sluggish. In fact, that day and night, I was just collecting wood for the fire constantly. I was full of energy. Alex couldn't believe it. He's like, normally he's the one gathering all the wood, and I was a completely different person. So that, first and foremost, that was the biggest change that I made. The second thing was that I started to get into more of the hammock camping. And what I mean by that is I've had hammocks before, the gathered in hammocks. I could never get comfortable in one of those. I just, when I laid in those, my shoulders were like this. And it wasn't comfortable. I'd wake up, and especially my right shoulder would just be completely sore. And I could never get comfortable in that. So I was always a ground dweller. The ground dwelling never bothered me, the actual sleeping part of it. I was always comfortable. However, what wore me out the most, and most people that sleep under a tarp or a tent will tell you, it's the constant on your knees in that weird bent over position, setting the tent up or the tarp and then getting in and out of it. When it rains, a lot of times you get water in there from the ground. And so I decided to buy a war bonnet Ridgeline, and basically it's like a bridge hammock. It has a bridge or spreader bars on the head and the foot, so it makes the tarp or the hammock rectangular. And I can't tell you how much difference that makes. I actually was able to lay on that thing flat like I would in a bed. And I got to tell you, not only was it the most comfortable hammock I've ever been in, it was the most comfortable camping overnight sleep that I've had in many, many years. So that was a huge change. Now the third thing, and the purpose of this video, is I cut my pack weight. When I went on that trip to Wildcat Hollow, my pack with food and water, everything included, was 27 pounds. Now I've never been someone to carry a really heavy pack. I don't think I've ever carried a pack that's heavier than, say, 35, maybe 38 pounds. But that made a huge difference, just cutting it down to 27 pounds. And I found that I wasn't missing anything. I had everything I wanted. So I started doing research on ultralight backpacking and hiking. And, you know, obviously you have the bushcraft community, and then clear on the other side of the spectrum you have the ultralight hikers. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of like, you know, airplanes and gummy bears. I mean, you could have two different communities if you tried. And I thought to myself, there's got to be a way to merge those two things together. Now, the one thing that I was worried about was if I started to head towards the lightweight or ultralight hiking, is it going to take some of the tools or implements out of my bushcrafting kit that makes it fun when I go out on an outing? So I wanted to be mindful that I didn't want to just go to the lightweight system. I wanted to be able to merge those two together. And I believe what I came up with is something that is a very happy medium. And I'll go over the pack weight and all that with you here in a minute when I get to the gear. But I was able to merge those two things together. And what I found is that by just doing some simple things, and I'll give you just two examples. Obviously, ultralight backpackers do not carry, or nor would they even look at a silky big boy saw. To them, that would be absolutely ridiculous and a complete waste of weight. So I'm like, okay, but I want to be able to cut. I want to be able to make a bench or a shelter and procure wood. So I went to my Baco, and even a Baco to an ultralight camper is just, it's ridiculous. But to a bushcrafter, a Baco is a very viable tool, and a lot of guys use it, and that's all they carry. They don't carry a big, you know, saw with them. The other thing that I realized is that I was very knife heavy, meaning that I would typically take a chopper, my main survival blade, and then a backup blade, maybe a pocket knife, and a smaller knife, you know, like a neck knife. And I realized that, oh, I don't need all that. I mean, I need a knife. And so I got rid of the larger saw. I got rid of the knives that I don't need, and 90% of the times I never even used. So I was able to cut weight that way. The other thing is, going through my pack, I noticed that the ultralight backpackers, they don't carry pouches and containers, especially metal containers. And I went through my pack and realized that just getting rid of like the Maxpedition micro pocket organizers in my fire kit, and then getting rid of the metal tin that I put my char cloth in, and transferring those into a Ziploc bag, picked up 3 pounds. I got rid of all those pouches and containers, 3 pounds out of my pack. B, everything that I have in a Ziploc is now waterproof. And C, I can see, no pun intended, everything that's in those kits. They're right there, I can see them. So obviously I'm not going to carry a 2.5 pound axe either. And that, I will say, that's one thing that I might miss, because I do enjoy working with an axe. But between the Baco and having a main blade, there's not much I can't do with those two tools. So as I was going through this whole system, I realized that I had 4 or 5 pounds of just things that I don't have to have in order to enjoy wood crafting and bush crafting. So if you're like me and you're someone that's either dealing with a health problem, or you're getting up there in age, or you have things that ail you like bad joints or bad back or bad knees, reducing your pack weight is going to help significantly, and it's going to make the trip a lot more enjoyable. So let's go ahead and get to the tabletop, and I'm going to break down my gear, show you what some of the things that I've changed and what I'm going to be using here in the near future. Okay, so here's the gear. Wrigleys decided to join me. Right, buddy? You gonna help me out? So, this is what I've put together. Now, this obviously may change as I'm perfecting this system, but this represents some of the things that I've changed or added or deleted out of my kit. So I'm just gonna start over here and work my way to this side. So, the first thing is fire kit. Now this would be ridiculous to a ultralight or lightweight backpacker. However, this is something as a bushcrafter you're just taught fire, fire, fire. So I will, over the next few weeks here, I'm going to go into each kit component in detail. So this is just kind of an overview of what I have. So just quickly, I have some fat wood. Basically everything I would normally have in my fire kit is in here. Now the one thing I did to change or reduce the weight is I don't have the the 7-inch fire steel, the ferro rod that weighs half a pound in this kit. I went to a smaller ferro rod. Instead of carrying a whole chunk of fat wood, I have a few pieces. But I'll get into, like I said, these kits over the next period of weeks. So that's my fire kit. I took it out of the heavy bag or metal container that I usually carry this in and just put it, this is actually a ribs pack pouch that weighs absolutely nothing. It's lightweight ripstop nylon, and it's going to keep everything in there pretty dry and compact. The next thing is my Lucy light. Now this is a luxury item that some ultralight guys would say is not necessary. But the reason I like this light, number one, is it's solar powered. The solar charge on it lasts forever. It has an indicator button, and then there's low, medium, high, and then the thing I like the most about this light is that blinking mode. Now where I camp, there's a lot of dense woods, and if you're out at night gathering wood or out scouting around, I like to hang this up by my camp area. It allows me to find my campsite very easily, because the worst thing that can happen to you is being out in a very dense wooded area with no moon or very little moon. You can't find your way back. It has happened. It hasn't happened to me personally, but I've heard a lot of stories about that. And that's not a good thing, to be out wandering around in the woods, not being able to find your camp. Next thing is I have a water filter here. This is not a Sawyer Mini. I have one of those. This is a Hydro Blue, and I got to tell you, it's a lot lighter, and the flow rate on it is a lot better. It's a lot quicker than the Sawyer Mini. I have a small baggie with about 7 of the potable water tablets, the valve, and then the hose for back flushing it and cleaning it out. Now the reason I really like this Hydro Blue water filter is it works in unison with the Smart Water bottle. It'll actually, you can just screw it on the end of that. So while we're on containers for water, I'm going to carry just a Smart Water bottle, and then I'm going to carry a 1 liter Cordage bag for my water, and also has a filter in the end of it. So I have 2 ways aside from boiling water and tablets that I can filter my water. Actually, I'm just going to throw these off the side as I go through them. Why? Because it's fun. Okay. This is my cook set. Now in here is the 650 Toaks titanium cook set with the lid. I also have a fuel canister in there. I have a titanium spork, a lighter, the BRS stove, and then I have a scrub pad in there as well. And then Alex brought this stuff over for me to make a cozy out of. That way I can keep the contents. If I'm just boiling, say, a packet, I can just keep this cozy on it and allow it to, you know, dehydrate or hydrate my meals. The next thing is, this is just, I'm calling this my gels and liquids. This is sunscreen. There's about 7 feet of Gorilla Tape. I have a silicone tent sealer tube in here, chapstick, a cork, sail needles, a heavy blanket pen, and bug spray. Toothpaste, and I plan on receiving here shortly. I bought one of those little travel toothbrushes instead of carrying a large one. So toothpaste. I have some hand sanitizer. Now this is a big one. For some reason Wrigley decided to chew into this bag. I don't know why. There must be some chemical in these towels, these little towelettes. Those are those little towels that you put water on and they expand. So I have that. And then I also have toilet paper. And I've written on here 6 times 24 inches each. Now with my new eating lifestyle, not to get gross, but I found that my bathroom activities are a lot cleaner. So your mileage may vary, but what I like to do is list approximately what I think I'm going to need for the outing, and then I will mark on here so I can kind of gauge how much toilet paper I have. Now here's the best thing about it. Toilet paper weighs absolutely nothing. So if you think you need more, just add it. It's better to have more than not enough. Now this is basically, I said, 6 times, and this kit here is representing basically, let's say 4 days, 3 nights, or 3 days, 2 nights. I have a long Ziploc bag, and then I just have an empty one. Again, weighs nothing, and there's a lot of different uses for these. One of which would be to haul out all my trash at the end of the outing. Next thing that I decided to cut weight with is, instead of taking my expensive camera out and my batteries and everything else that goes along with that, my 2.5 pound or 2 pound tripod, I've decided I'm going to record all my live activities, at least out in the woods, with my iPhone. And the outing that I did at Wildcat Hollow was all on my smartphone. And you know, aside from some different lighting settings and editing features, I didn't really notice the difference. So I'm going to start using that as a main way of recording these outings. With that being said, the iPhone that I have, the battery isn't the greatest, so I had to be able to charge it. So what I did is I purchased a 5200 mAh battery pack. Then I have a small cord to plug my phone into, and I've tested this. I'm getting about 3.5 full charges out of this with my iPhone, which is more than enough for a 2 or 3 day outing. Now the other thing I'm going to do in unison with this is I have purchased, it's actually something that you would put on a motorcycle handlebar, is I've purchased a mount that basically clamps onto my trekking pole, and I can put my phone, my iPhone on there, and then I can do selfies with it. And there's all different kinds of gadgets that you can buy to do that. So I'll be using that. And then I'm going to modify one of these poles. I'm actually going to screw into the bottom of this and put a, I think they're a 1/4 inch receiving bit, so that I can screw that in with my camera, and then I can simply stick this in the ground as kind of a unipod type system. So while we're on the trekking poles, these are Mountain Tech Cascade trekking poles. I prefer the ones with cork handles. They absorb the moisture in your hands. They dry out really quickly, and you get less blisters with these versus plastic handled. And I prefer the clamp type poles versus the ones that screw in. I had some really nice Kelty ones at one time, and I pulled one out too far and the spring popped out of it, and I could never get it back together working properly. So I prefer the ones with the clamps on it. So, and these are very lightweight. Next thing is a compass, and this is something that I will always take with me, and this serves at least two purposes. One is it's a compass. Number two, if you get one with a mirror, now you have a signaling mirror for rescue. And if you get something in your eye or something on your face, like I've had thorns on my face before, now I can see with this mirror. The other thing that I use this for, and again, we're just being real here, if you're out camping in an area where there's a lot of ticks, in my area of the world, and here in Ohio, we get a good amount of ticks. I like to use this mirror to check myself for ticks in those areas that you normally can't see. I'm not going to throw the compass, by the way. And take care of your compass. I see guys just tossing these around, and I don't understand why. Next is cutting tools. So I've narrowed it down to my Baca saw and my Mora companion knife. Now, to a lightweight or ultralight backpacker, both of these are ridiculous. To a bushcrafter, this may not be enough, and I realize that some guys are going to say this is not a survival knife. But it will do everything I need to do around camp, and in my fire kit, when I break that out for you in another video, you'll see I have a backup blade in there as well. But if you want to go with a survival knife, if I took this out and I put my Mora Garberg in here, I'm only adding about 10 ounces. So I could put a survival knife in here and still keep this thing very manageable. So don't get fixated on the type of knife. It's just what I choose to take. And I like this because I can clip it onto my belt. I don't have to, or onto my pocket. I don't have to put it on my belt. You can also put a piece of paracord around it and use it as a neck knife. I have a pillow, just an inflatable pillow, and one of the things that I have changed is I got rid of my pillowcase. I realized my pillowcase was really heavy. You just really don't realize it until you buy an ounce and pound or gram scale and start weighing this stuff. You're like, wow, I can't believe how much a pillowcase weighs. So I don't like the plastic on my face, or on the side of my face, or on my head. So I have a buff that I carry on my head, and I use it for when I ride my motorcycle as well, keep the sweat out of the foam in the helmet. So I'm just going to put that over this pillow, and that'll serve as my pillowcase because I'm already carrying it. It doesn't add any weight, and it allows my buff to dry out as well. Leather gloves. This is completely unnecessary for an ultralight backpacker, but because I am a bushcrafter, I find these invaluable. One, they keep your hands, at least keeps the wind off your hands in colder weather. They're not insulated, so they're not really good winter gloves. But the main reason I use these is for all my campfire activities. And what I really like about these is I can actually reach into a hot fire, grab a log that's on fire, and if I move it quickly, I don't burn my hands. And it's also, the main reason is to get the pots and stuff out of the fire, so you don't burn your fingers. So leather gloves. Then here I just have my underwear, extra pair of socks. I'll probably put a shirt like this in here, which I've included in all this on the weight here. So that would be for 3 days. And while we're on socks, one thing that I've done is that normally these are the spreader bar poles for my hammock. And normally I would put this in a nice big pouch, and what I decided to do is that instead of doing all that, is the end of these spreader bars have a kind of a nipple on them. It's really well rounded, like you would never cut your hand on it or anything, but I don't want it poking into other things. So this is a pair of what I call dress or church socks. They're real thin, made by Smart Wool. So I balled one up at the end where those the nipples on the poles are, and then just strung it out, throw a piece of shock cord on it, and now my poles are protected, and the rest of my gear is protected in my pack. I have cordage. This is my Ridgeline, and eventually I will switch that out. This is a little heavy. Paracord is a little heavy, but I enjoy working with paracord. It just seems to be easier to make knots and put press-stick loops onto. So paracord, and then I have bank line here, and that's just a hair tie to keep the loose end on there. So I have some bank line. I have a black diamond headlamp. Tent stakes. I switched from the heavier plastic ones to these. I believe these are aluminum, but they're really lightweight. They have a hole in them. A lot of people think this is what you're supposed to tie your tarp tie-outs to. It's not. What I found is if you do that, unless you get this hole basically this way, away from where you're tying it, a lot of times when you go to cinch that, if you're using like a taut line hitch, it pulls the stake out. These are actually designed to go in the back so that when you go to pull the stake out, you can use this. That's actually to pull the stake out of the ground. And again, in a very lightweight bag, so I have 6 of those stakes. Okay, first aid, and this is one where a lot of people are going to have a lot of comments, and that's great. If there's something in here you think I'm missing, please let me know, or I need to add, or something that I don't need. But to me, a first aid kit is very personal, and no one can tell you what you need. Now, there's some basic things I think everyone should have, but make your own kit. Don't go to the store and buy one, because what you get is about 80% just Band-Aids. And there's nothing in there of any real use other than the Band-Aids. I will do a separate video of this, but what I like to do is I like to label everything that I have in here so I know what is in here. And so I will get into this kit in detail on another video, but it's very lightweight. It's in a little Ziploc bag. Took it out of a fire or a first aid kit pouch and put it in this, and made some significant savings on weight with that. Okay, this one here is going to be one that I think both communities, the ultralight and the bushcrafted community, would say, what the heck? Why are you carrying a tourniquet? Well, I have been in construction, and periodically I update my first aid training. And a couple of times I have asked the instructors, different instructors, can you make a tourniquet out in the field, say out in the woods? And they have said that yes, you can make one, but it's not going to be very effective, especially if it's for yourself. And one of my biggest fears, anywhere I go, whether I'm in my vehicle, I'm on my motorcycle, or I'm out in the woods, is getting cut or injured and having a main artery and bleeding out. That is probably the biggest exposure, risk exposure you could have bushcrafting, because you're cutting with an axe or a saw or a knife. You could fall. I mean, you could fall into a rusty fence and rip your leg open and hit an artery, and that is a very quick way to die by bleeding out. So whether it's in my vehicle or wherever I go, I'm always going to carry a tourniquet, one that's made for that purpose. Yes, you can use a stick in your shamag or a scarf or paracord, but guys, I'm telling you, that's not something you want to fool with, especially if you're out there by yourself. For a bushcrafter, this weighs nothing. For an ultralight backpacker, it's a little weighty, but it is one thing that I will always take with me. And you need to learn how to use one, but this is going to go fast compared to trying to make a tourniquet. It's ridiculous not to carry one. Okay, and here again I took my compression sack from my military sleep system and I put it in a dry bag. And the nice thing is this is actually the green bag of the sleep system, and I was shocked that I was able to get it in an 8-liter dry bag, and I didn't have to really fight with it. It worked really well. So the other nice thing is now I have a dry bag that once I take this out and set my shelter up, my hammock, I now have a dry bag that I can collect water with. I can take my food, which I'll have in different Ziploc bags, put it in here, hang it in a tree. Now I don't have to worry about bears in my area, but I do have to worry about raccoons and little critters that run around the night like to eat all your food. So that's my sleeping bag. Now this is a little heavy. I think this is just a little over 2 pounds. For spring and summer, I'm going to go to probably just a cheap $20 quilt for my hammock that'll weigh probably 12, 13 ounces. And I can get rid of this. And here is another 8-liter dry bag, and I have my hammock, and my tarp. So this is all in one nice package. And again, once I set all this up, I have a dry bag. Again, for water collection, I can put my dirty clothes in it. I can hang this up from a tree with the food. I can also gather small kindling and things like that with the dry bag. And then this is a foam sleep pad with just a Velcro strap. A lot of people ask me where I get these Velcro straps. It's a company called Envisioned. You can buy them on Amazon. What I like about it, it's just a simple strap, and it has a single plastic buckle, and those things have held up really well. So this foam pad, I have a double layer hammock, so this slides into the hammock, and I have another video review of that hammock on an outing, and that slides in there. That night it got down to about 26 degrees, and I had the black bag from the military sleep system and this in that slip pocket. I was toasty warm, no problems. So one thing that I don't have is my backpack. You're probably like, well, what are you carrying all this in? My Kelty Red Wing 50, I think that is an excellent backpack. However, I think I got the wrong size. It's a little tall for me. So I have ordered a Z-Packs Arc Haul backpack. Now, that is not a cheap investment, but it's something that I know that I would eventually gravitate towards, so I decided to just pull the trigger and get it. The nice thing is that thing's just under like 2.5 pounds. So I'm now taking a pack that's 3.5, 3 3/4, and dropping down to under 2.5 pounds with just the pack. Now, the bushcrafters out there saying, what about durability? Yes, all the stuff that I've shown, there are some concerns about durability of the Ziploc bags and the backpack, and it's something you just need to be cognizant of, that this stuff is not heavy-duty ballistic nylon. So you just got to be a little more careful what you're doing with everything. And I don't see in that being an issue, but it's something I've chosen to go to in order to lighten the pack. And like I said, I still have all the fun stuff in there. My knives, paracord, bank lines, saw. I still get to do all the fun bushcraft and woodworking out in the field. Okay, now for the big question: what does all this weigh? So I went through all of this, weighed everything. My dry weight now is 14 pounds and 6 ounces. 14 pounds, 6 ounces. For a ultralight guy, no bueno. That ain't happening. Those guys are all south of 10 pounds. I mean, it's crazy. For a lightweight backpacker, that's very doable. Yes, thumbs up. For a bushcrafter, that's crazy. Having a pack that's under 15 pounds. Especially having a pack under 20 pounds with food and water. So hopefully this is helpful to you guys. I feel that this is very successful, merging bushcrafting with the lightweight, ultra lightweight concept and putting those two things together. So it's the hike is enjoyable. You can hike further and longer and be less tired. But yet when you get to camp, you still have all the stuff that you love to mess around with, making benches and feather sticks and batoning wood and making shelters. So this is Jeff with the Common Sense Camper, camping out.